Why I don't care. All my life I've been poor. All my life I've been either middle class or below middle class. As a child, went without food, went without good clothing, went to school. A lot of our, I remember when visitors came, we dressed in bright clothes. When we went to school, in our school photos, we were in grey clothes. Mum was very much into impressing people, but there was always a lie. The mother cat, one of the kittens has gotten out of its container, out of the box they're in, and the mother cat's playing with it on the ground, and they're wrestling with it. So they're having fun. So I don't. Why I don't care is I was thinking about it this morning, and a lot of it's because I've been in the rough. I don't care about what people know about me. I've known 3 or 4 times, probably 20 years ago, where I was remembering things that happened to me in the past that were embarrassing, and no one cared after they happened. At the time when they happened, I was highly embarrassed, highly ashamed, shocked and horrified and all this sort of stuff. Then I discovered nobody cared, and it was really weird. And I grew up at a time when guys had to be tough, cool, mean and all this, and I saw a video recently of a black guy who looked pretty mean on reviewing Beach Boy songs like God Only Knows, and he was just about crying. Guys back when I was a teenager and a young adult, they didn't do that. You were weird if you did that. It's what I did. And so if you showed emotion or cried, people would pick at you and bully you, and that would be your mates. So as I got older, I discovered you care about the important things and you don't care about the unimportant things. What's done is done, what's happened has happened. It's happened, it's over with, it's done with. Sure, some people will bring things up. My mother was really good at that. It got to the stage I wouldn't take a female home, and I wouldn't take my friends home, because every time I took someone home, Mum would always sit there and go on about James is this, James is that. James was so embarrassing. There was an incident when I was a child that Mum was always on about it. It used to embarrass me. But now I realise it didn't embarrass me because the incident embarrassed me because of the way she told it. She was trying to shame me. She was trying to embarrass me in front of my friends. She found a lot of joy in doing that. So I got to the stage I would bring people home. After high school, after school. I saw a video, this popped into my head this morning, and I can't remember what the video was and how it actually went, but I remember the emotions of the video, and it was kind of like this guy was on an island with a female, and what I can't remember about that was whether she was as rich and he was poor. She was like half his age and he was half her age older. Or he was crippled and she wasn't, but stuck on the island together, they developed a relationship. And the relationship became love. They fell in love and they slept with each other, and they gained a very comfortable life together on the island because there was no one else to watch, no one else to see. And then one day, probably about 10 years later, a ship came. And when the ship came, as soon as the ship came, she realised that she was going to be known as being with him. And the moment that happened, maybe it was 5 years later, but whatever, she panicked. And she thought, oh. And then from the moment they arrived to take them ashore, he'd completely forgotten it. The age difference or the financial difference or whatever. All he knew was he was deeply in love with her, and she loved him. She made him feel magical. So that's all he felt. And when they came, he thought, now we can be together and go back to our homes and be together in a house and have a family and all this other stuff. She was thinking, oh my gosh, what will my parents think? What will my friends think? What will the neighbours think? Oh, I can't do this. So as soon as they got on board, or even they got on the lifeboat, the boat to be taken to the ship, she was sitting there distancing herself from him in little ways. And when he tried to hold her hand, she pulled her hand away. When she got close, he sat next to her. She made an excuse to get up and go and sit somewhere else. And then by the time they were on the ship, like after the first day, he realised that she wanted nothing to do with him, now that other people know. And he was devastated. And the end of the movie, as far as I remember it, was she was in a room crying because she'd gotten rid of him, the only person she'd ever loved in her whole life. And he was in his room and his home just broken-hearted because he'd lost her, and he was horrified to find out that he wasn't good enough. And because, and in the end, she's in a room crying about him, and then her friends will come to the door. There's probably a bedroom, I suppose, and they all come pouring in, and they're all fake friends. They're all there to impress other people because I think she was of a higher quality or whatever, and she had a reputation to preserve and all that. And so that's how the movie ended. She was rejoicing with her plastic friends, and he was alone forever. I know a female whose family have done really bad things, and she's done a lot of really bad things. And by the age of like 17, she'd done set with like probably 10 times more people I had, or 5 times more, heaps more. And her parents have done bad stuff, and she was included, and publicly she won't. It's kind of like, it reminds me of the Maxwell case, where Maxwell and Epstein, the girls took Epstein to court knowing they'd have to explain to the court doing oral sex on Epstein, doing oral sex on Maxwell and all that sort of stuff, and then doing it to them. And they, if there were photos, they had to show the photos, or video, they had to show the video to prove it. So sometimes you get to a stage where you may have to totally expose yourself, but that's the right thing to do what you have to do. And so it's kind of, yeah. And if you care too much what others think, you won't do it. So if that blonde woman, the blonde woman was so worried about what other people would think, like all her school friends, like all her friends as a young adult, her work friends in her workplace, and all that stuff. She cared about that. She would never have taken Maxwell to court and won. See, the issue was about taking Maxwell to court, making her pay for the crime she'd done, and getting little children for Epstein. The same with Prince Andrew. I don't know a person who doesn't think, even on the internet, that Prince Andrew's innocent. So I'll be really, but she's going up against Prince Andrew, the whole of the royal family who are backing him up, and a whole lot of elite people he supports. But if the moment he gets pinged for doing what he did, like with Maxwell, everyone will desert him. You know, and he will never be able to go to America, I think, because he'll get thrown into jail immediately. So it's good. And her, even if she didn't win the court case, the stain on his name is pretty darn heavy. So I'm really hoping she wins, though. It'll be really good. I like to see justice done. In a place like America where they're so into money and money rules, like with Michael Jackson, many people believe he was guilty, but he never got done because of money, basically, they reckoned. He just paid his way out. I read of an accusation, I can't remember what it was about yesterday, and clearly, very clearly, the person was guilty. And after they were taken to court, it was a woman. It was a woman. She was a movie star, and she killed a guy. It was the guy who sings Moon River, his ex-wife, Claudia or something. And she was in the room. She said the gun fired accidentally and killed the guy, but they proved in the court that it was fired from an angle that proved that he couldn't have done it. But everyone backed her up and all the sort of stuff, and she got, I think it was 30 days in jail. And they all said, no, she was innocent, and let her off. And it shows in America, and that was in France, but I'm not sure where the court case was. It shows that when you're rich and famous, you can get away with stuff. So it's really cool to see people like that young blonde woman and the others taking on the law and saying, you know, hold on a second, please. This is the naughty one that snuck out. It's tiny. It looks big in my hands on the video, but it's really small. And it's its first time out. So he's got little eyes, and it's just, yes. And it's just walking around, being nosy at everything, have a look around. My ex-wife and I, when we were married, first married, I was working at Canaleith in the paper mill, and I was earning a good wage, and we just bought this house, and we're in a lot of debt, and our car had just broken down, and I said, look, we were talking about buying clothes for Tracy when she was born. Oh, she was already born when we got the house. And we were talking about getting clothes, and I said, well, let's go to the second-hand shop and grab some children's clothes. And she said, I'm not going there. She said, we're never buying second-hand clothes. And she did the high and mighty on me. You know, her family was, well, I found out as years went by, rather criminal. Her past was shocking. Their family, the whole family's past was shocking. Yet she had built herself up proudly that she'd never get second-hand clothes for the kids or for herself or for me. And I'd been buying second-hand clothes all my life. Even when I could, if I walked past a second-hand shop and there was a nice cardigan in there, I'd buy it. I'd just say, oh, that's nice. I wouldn't mind that, and so I'd go and buy it. To me, it's just like a shop with its clothes. I mean, if I was a millionaire, I'd buy second-hand clothes. It's a well-known fact that people that are very, very rich, often when they're not in the limelight, they're in old second-hand clothes. It helps disguise who they really are. There was a case where in France where an American couple were visiting. I can't remember who they are, but I remember reading the biography, and the guy would always go to the store, the little town store, in rags, because, you know, he felt comfortable in them. He wasn't going to go in a suit. And him and his wife would go, and the guy who owned the store felt so sorry for them, he was always giving them discounts because he thought they were poor. They were grateful for the discounts. I thought, wow, that's amazing. He's always giving us discounts. And then one day someone recognised him when he was in the store and said, oh, that's the millionaire, da-da-da-da. And the guy saw it and was furious. He felt he'd been tricked, but he hadn't. He just read it wrong and probably didn't get to know them better. Anyway, I found that with people, they forget quickly. When you do something really stupid and foolish, it doesn't take them long to forget, and you get on slow. If it's like I said a story on the internet. I did. You go down the street, somebody yells abuse you out of their car as they drive by, and you fester over it, or you yell and swear at them, and they yell and swear at you, and then for the rest of the day, it upsets you. But they forgot. As soon as I went around the corner, they forgot. But you kept it in your head, and you're like, they're just a da-da-da-da-da-da, and then you went home and raised it your family and upset their day. They raised it their friends and upset their day, and it was made into a big thing. When something silly happens to you, like if you look at the files on YouTube, it actually helps a lot. It realizes that everyone does stupid things. And you see the really dumb things some people do. And it actually helps. You can look at it and say, the human race is stupid, and it pretty much is. But if you have a look at the videos, it's only because it's been captured in these generations. The generations before, we were still very stupid. It just wasn't captured on film. These days it is. And they do really dumb things, and they put it up there and everyone has a laugh. It can be hard when you're, the reason I read the thing called The Years, or Through the Years, which was about my life, and the shameful things my family did, and the things that people had done to me. I wrote it to heal myself, but when I read it, I thought one day I might just publish that. There's stuff I'm still healing over, and I'm getting over that, so that's not included yet, but it will be included. So the thing here is, you get to a stage, and especially when you fall in love with someone, people are so ashamed of their past they don't tell the lover, the person they marry, and then the person they marry finds out later, and it can cause a lot of trouble. So it's better to tell in the beginning. Don't tell lies. It's just very foolish. But being afraid of what other people think is very limiting. It's very damaging to your own mind and to all your future relationships. Because always in the back of the mind, your mind just sitting there thinking, oh, what will they think? What will I say if I say this? What will I say if I say that? What will I say if I do this? Oh, I better not do a mistake. Oh, I must make sure the children are dressed perfectly. I must make sure that I have enough money in case I'm embarrassed that I don't have enough money when I get there. And you just panic all the time over absolutely nothing that no one else cares about. Even if you didn't have enough money to go to an event or something, and then you got there and discovered that, one of your friends will help you. That's what friends are for. And they won't ask for money back. They don't care. So let them pay for it, and then in the future, when your opportunity comes up, and it will, to help them back, you can help them back then. So this people-pleasing thing that people have got. Oh, I'm worried about what people think. I'm worried about people who worry about. I've got to make sure the neighbours think everything's rosy in my house. And this is how criminal things happen, like incest or child sex abuse. I've read about cases where females or males have come forward about child sex abuse. And before they came forward, and it took 10, 20 years for them to come forward, the reason is because they were so darn scared of what everyone would think. Their friends, their relations, and blah, blah. When they finally, 10, 20 years later, got the courage to come forward, the person who did it is dead. Or is so old it's hardly worth taking them to jail and stuff. We got to stop worrying about what other people think. See, right now, if you're watching this and you were sexually abused as a child, while you're mucking around worrying about other people and what they think about what was done to you, and you were too scared to tell the court that you did sexual acts with your parent or whatever, you got to understand that while you're mucking around, they're abusing other people. Even if they're telling you they're not. So your hesitation is causing others to go through what you've gone through and to suffer mentally later on. I found with, like, there's a big thing on the internet about females and sex abuse, and they reckon mothers abusing their daughters doesn't make it different. It wrecks their minds. So you gotta, it's not just lesbianism, it wrecks your mind, knowing that they did sexual things to their mother. And they need to go to the law. They need to sort it out. And forget shame. Shame's not counted. It's not about you being shamed. You're innocent. They're guilty. You're taking them to court to stop them ever doing it again and to stop their friends doing it again. And you're there to protect other people. It has nothing to do with shame. It has nothing to do with embarrassment. The stuff you're going to tell is what you're forced or tricked into doing. Seduced. It's, you know, you got to look at it as an adult when you sit there and you say to yourself, well, right now, what I do, what they tricked me into doing in the past, and I can see there's heaps of things other people told me in the past that was all right to do that I wouldn't do now. So that means that I was groomed or grown into it, immersed into it, seduced into it. But it wasn't my normal thought, because now I've got my normal thought and I'd never do it. So if someone tricked you into something, they need to pay for it. Life goes by and we want to leave a good impression, but the more courageous impression is more important than faking plastic. I grew a large dislike of plastic people, which I call, like, people say credit card is plastic money. Plastic people to me are fake in any sense or in any way. And a lot of them, I can pick them up immediately. When they talk to me, and I just think, oh, fake. And, oh, actually, I think they're plastic. I just say, oh, plastic person. And then I'll have to do with them what I have to do with them, like for my job or business or something. And then I depart from the company and never go near them again. There is no loss to me by being alone without plastic people in my life. I discard them as quick as I can. And if I have to deal with them, like to do some deal or something, like business, like to buy a house or to buy a car or something, then I have to. But that's where it ends. As soon as it's over, they're gone out of my life. I don't, people say that person could be really important in your life. Get to know them. They could be a good friend. They can take you out. You can do wonderful things. I don't care about any of that stuff. So I don't care what they think. I don't care what other people think. I've developed a life I like. It's peaceful. It's healthy. It's completely without regard about what the whole entire world thinks of my life. I honestly don't care what they think. I do my thing, and that's it. And if they don't like it, that's fine. You know, another part came to me was all the women I'd slept with before, they'd all slept with other guys while we were together. When we split up, because they slept with other guys, they told all their friends that I'd slept around on them. They just couldn't face everyone and admit the truth. So they told, and so there's a bunch of people out there in the world who believe that I was the cause for all of them to leave me, when in reality it was them. But I don't care. It used to bother me. And then I got to a stage where I just didn't care anymore. It was after my ex-wife, when she left, I just finally thought there was so much evidence against her, and everyone backed her, well, a lot of people backed her up. And me and the kids were basically left alone because everyone's feeling sorry for her. Because she walked out on her 4 kids for the single life, bought herself a nice car, well, we didn't have one, and did all sorts of stuff like that. And everyone was going, oh, poor dear, she hasn't got a family anymore. And I was like, okay. And that's the other thing, you don't care about what other people think. You finally get to a stage where you realize you're not going to get an honest appreciation for the things you've done. You're not going to get an honest, treatment for what a good person you are, the sacrifices you've made when another person hasn't, and stuff like that. My oldest daughter was always complaining that when they went out, my ex was always getting compliments about the children's behaviour, how well behaved they were, what great children they were. And my ex would always go, well, you know, this is what it's like when you bring your children up late. And she'd take all the credit for all the work I did while she was working at Wins. So I knew that was happening, but it didn't bother me. I just didn't care. I didn't like going to any of the social events they went to anyway, so it didn't bother me. The point is I did my own thing, and I was happy. So I developed a lifestyle where the whole entire world could be against me, but as long as they're outside my door, it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me. I've got this life I like, I love, I enjoy, and it's peaceful, it's calming, it's laid back, it's restful, it's healthy, mentally and physically. Like one of the things the kids and I used to do in the afternoons and sunny days like this is I'd bring them home from school, or for homeschooling, we'd all just lounge out on the couches and sleep for like an hour or two in the afternoons, like from 4 o'clock till 6 or something. And we just relaxed when we did things, and we didn't have dinner at conventional times. I didn't put them to bed at conventional times. We didn't get up at conventional, you know, we just did things that were natural to us. I read many years ago with the Maoris in New Zealand that the first meal of the day, they'd get up early in the morning, like 5 or 6 in the morning. They'd work very hard till 10 o'clock in the morning, and then they'd have breakfast. In our new society, you've got to have breakfast at a certain time, like 8 o'clock in the morning. And you've got to do it then, and that's important. So, you know, and the other thing is about my section. Sometimes I work 7 days in a row, and then and for like 3 or 4 weeks, and I haven't had time to mow the lawns. The lawns get really long, especially at the front, and people look at me like, oh, I don't care. I don't give a damn. I have a reason for it. You don't know what the reason is. I'm fine. When my knee was pakalo, and I had the knee operation, I couldn't mow the lawn for ages. And I couldn't weed the gardens, and I couldn't do all sorts. None of the neighbours offered to help. Nobody I knew offered to help. I had to do it on my own. And so when I was doing crutches, I was mowing the lawn. And so I learned, well, so it's a mess, who cares? If there's something that's broken in the house, well, okay, it's fine. I can fix it when I can. And when I can't fix it, if it's not visually pleasant to other people, that's fine. I don't care. And I also found that when you release all your worries and you care about people pleasing, what other people think, that is when your mind relaxes and you find that life is a lot better. Like you might get up in the morning, you have to go down town for something. You have a choice of mowing the front lawn, which is, you know, so high, or you can go to town and do what you have to do. So you jump in the car, you go to town, or you ride your bike, in my case, you go to town. The thing is you come back and all the neighbours' lawns are trimmed and yours isn't. Well, you had to do something important. It comes down to priorities and getting your priorities right without letting other people influence them. I had a neighbour next door who used to drive me crazy. He was a bit dumb, and he was very, we ended up having a yelling fight. His wife went over my front section without a catcher. She didn't ask, she just mowed the front part of my section without a catcher and let grass everywhere, made a horrible mess. And him and I ended up having a yelling fence match over the fence at the front. And he was going on, we're trying to sell our house and we want it to look nice and your lawn's always long and you're just a da-da-da-da-da. And I looked at him and I said, look at it now. It looks 10 times worse than it did. It was only about that much high when she mowed it. By the time she finished, it looked terrible. And I said, and if you're trying to sell your house, why didn't you just ask? And see, if he'd asked, I would have made that a priority. Before that, it wasn't a priority. So life's kind of, but they didn't end up selling it either at that time. They end up breaking up later on and they're selling it. So, some people put a huge amount of importance in things that are plastic and not important. Get your priorities right. Justice should always go first. If you need to do something, no matter how much exposed you are, get it done. Your conscience will never give you any peace until you do. What other people think is their opinion. It's not yours. Don't live what other people think. Don't let other people control your mind because of what they think. Value yourself, value your heart, value your soul, value your inner peace. And even if things aren't the way other people think they should be, it's fine. Live your life. Live it in peace. Live it in harmony. Live how you think you should live. And one of the things about your property is when you go to a farm, the front door can be really high, the place can be a mess, it can be old rusted cans in one corner and an old dying tractor in the other corner and things like that. It hasn't worked for 20 years. No one gives a hoot about it when you visit on a farm. No one cares. It can be, the whole place can be a mess, falling apart, the roof falling in, whatever. No one cares. But when you come to the town, all your neighbours freak out because your front lawn's not mowed. It shouldn't be any different either place you're at. That's why I like to live on a farm, because it's a lot more peaceful and you're so far away from so many people. It's nice. Anyway, so that's something to think about too. But value your life, put your inner peace before what other people think.